Good afternoon. Gonna have a little no cam stream today. I feel like, not even I feel like, I've been in a little bit of a low with my depression recently. Um, and I've been still usually cam streaming or like giving myself breaks on stream and turning on like an overlay. So I made myself a little Stardew Valley inspired me to put up this time instead of dogs out curb. Um, and yeah, I'll just be chilling. I'll play some music. Um, I have a couple books that I was reading before stream that I'm gonna show and recommend. And then I'll read a little bit from two of them. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to chill and to hopefully get even further into Ginger Island because I need to. I need to. I locked in for 6 hours the other day playing just Stardew, and then I just stopped. Like I haven't played. I didn't play yesterday. I guess it's only been one day. It feels like it's been so long because I made so much progress. I'll go ahead and transition and just start Shweebud. Here's me. I just made that really quick before going live, so it's not the cleanest, but you know what? It's what we got. It's what we got. Okay, I'm also gonna add, and I'll recommend the books first before I get into my game. Okay, so this is one of the books that I'm reading right now. I read a lot of books at one time because with my ADHD, for- with my ADHD and autism, I want to learn everything. I want to read everything, but also I think just someone who appreciates humanity and art and history and politics and society. I want to know it all. I want to see what everyone's thinking, what everyone's feeling. I want to know it before I die. I want to know everything, but not really everything. So with my ADHD, for a long time, I tried to push myself. My autism side was like, I need to just finish a book that I'm on and learn all of this topic and then move on. But with my ADHD, I learned to accommodate I learned to accommodate my ADHD by reading a bunch of books at one time, not putting a lot of pressure on finishing the book as fast as possible or being like a 100 book a year person. If I don't finish the book by the end of the year, that's fine because I want to retain what I'm reading and that's just how my brain works. I need to be able to hop between things. So I'll usually read a bunch of different nonfiction and then like I've talked about before, but I'll read a bunch of different like comic graphic novels at one time. I'll read um usually a lot of poetry. Like I'll usually have at least one book of poetry that I'm reading, a book of prose. I'll have a graphic novel or a comic, a graphic novel that I'm reading, and then I'll have comics that I'm keeping current with. I'll usually read a book that's more fantasy related. I'll read like a horror novel, but usually horror novels like to really get the information beyond just like I don't know, I feel like a horror novel, the suspense and like the cadence of it is building in a way where I have to stick to it, where with like a book of poetry, maybe I'll read a couple poems or a few poems, and then I'll like let those digest in my head. So anyway, I'm reading a bunch. But I want to recommend this one first. Sorry, here, let me actually I'll put music on still, but I'll just put it very low. That way it's not creepy. Um, but this one, Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present, by Harriet A. Washington, 501 pages, and first published in 2007. And then I can read the description too. Uh, Says from the era of slavery to the present day, the first full history of Black America's shocking mistreatment as unwilling and unwitting experimental subjects at the hands of the medical establishment. Medical apartheid is the first and only comprehensive history of medical experimentation of African Americans, starting with the earliest encounters between Black Americans and Western medical researchers and the racist pseudoscience that resulted. It details the ways both slaves and freedmen were used in hospitals for experiments conducted without their knowledge. A tradition that, you know what, actually, playing music in the background feels kind of like, bleh. I'm just going to read. A tradition that continues today within some Black populations. It reveals how Black people have historically been prey to, hello, welcome and share, prey to grave robbing as well as unauthorized autopsies and dissections. Moving into the 20th century, it shows how the pseudoscience of eugenics and social Darwinism was used to justify experimental exploitation and shoddy medical treatments of Black people on the view that they were biologically inferior, oversexed, and unfit for adult responsibilities. Shocking new details about the government's notorious Tuskegee experiment are revealed, as are similar, less well known medical atrocities conducted by the government, the armed forces, prisons, and private institutions. The products of years of prodigious research into medical journals and experimental reports, long undisturbed, medical apartheid reveals the hidden underbelly of scientific research and makes possible, for the first time, an understanding of the roots of the African American health deficit. At last, it provides the fullest possible context for comprehending the behavioral fallout that has caused Black Americans to view researchers and indeed the whole medical establishment with such deep distrust. No one concerned with issues of public health and racial justice can afford not to read Medical Apartheid, a masterful book that will stir up both controversy and long needed debate. Um, so I was reading a little bit of this before I went live, and I have a chunk in it that I want to read that was really interesting that I got to today. It's like a page. Um, Dude, I should have taken a picture of it so I could have pulled the page itself up. But it's my copy is a paperback, and it's on page 204 to about 206. I think it goes a little over 205. Yeah. Ooh, let me turn my light on, actually. I didn't turn my light on because I'm not on camera, so I just didn't think about it. Wasn't part of my normal routine. Okay. So on these pages, it says across the nation, Black women who trusted obstetricians to deliver their children were being surreptitiously sterilized, and this revelation poisoned relationships between them and their doctors. To accomplish the sterilizations, practitioners lied to patients, forged consent forms, or falsified medical records to reflect an appendectomy or gallbladder removal, so it is now impossible to know the exact number of African American women who were sterilized without their knowledge. Nor is there any record of how many such hysterectomies, if any, were medically justified. Some women, like Fannie Lou Hamer, were never told by their doctors that they had been sterilized, and others never found out. One of the few methodical surveys conducted revealed that at least 60% of the Black women in Hamer's native Sunflower County, Mississippi, unwittingly suffered postpartum hysterectomies. By 1980, sterilization had become the most common form of birth control, and it still is, edging out condom use by 1%. Now, this was in 2007, so I'm not sure on the current statistics. Um, but African American women remain far more likely than whites to undergo a hysterectomy, although researchers have known for over a decade that they are at a higher risk of the procedure's complications and are more likely to die from the surgery. According to the National Center for Health Statistics, NCHS, 41% of Black women who use contraception were sterilized, compared with only 27% of white women. Within a century, reproductive coercion had taken a 180-degree turn for black women. During slavery, black women had been forced to procreate, but now they were being forced into sterility. The consistent factor was white control. Women were also forced into sterility by government welfare programs, upon which unskilled black women workers um, relied to supplement their meager wages. While a social worker in upstate New York during the 1980s, I learned from old case files that during the 1960s and 1970s, social workers conducted frequent late night raids on the homes of aid recipients. If a man was discovered, the family's aid could be cut off unless the woman agreed to sterilization, guaranteeing that there would be no additional children for the state to support. Black women are still more likely than white women to be suppressed or misled into sterilization, which tripled between 1970 and 1980, in part because hysterectomies are offered as the only curative option for ailments that can be treated more conservatively, such as fibroids and endometriosis. By 1978, doctors also began administering the drug Depo-Provera, but only in research studies and almost exclusively to poor women of color. Depo-Provera is the Upjohn Company's brand name for medroxyprogesterone acetate, which is also called DMPA. In 1978, the drug had just been FDA approved for use as a cancer therapy. In 1973, after the government discovered the beagles on which the drug had been tested developed breast cancer, it had refused to fund further testing of the drug. As a contraceptive, cancer medications carry significant risks, which are acceptable when one is fighting a deadly illness, but not when a healthy woman is simply trying to avoid pregnancy. However, licensed physicians may administer legal medications for any use that they deem appropriate, and American doctors found it appropriate to administer Depo-Provera as an experimental contraceptive to healthy Native American and Black patients. In 1978, the FDA criticized an Emory University study of Depo-Provera as having needlessly imperiled the lives of 4,700 women, all Black, and in 1992, an FDA board warned, and then in quotes, never has a drug whose target population is entirely healthy people been shown to be so pervasively carcinogenic in animals as has Depo-Provera. So yeah, very, very informative book. Definitely recommend it. Um, it's not something you're gonna speed through. Well, maybe, maybe you will. Maybe you'll speed through it, but it's something I'm reading in chunks because I want to digest the information and remember, and I'm also like annotating and yeah, I want to be able to use it as a resource because I don't want my knowledge of things covered in this book to end with the back cover. I want to continue to reference the book and be able to put like I know these things, not everything. I don't know everything, especially as a white woman. Like I don't, I was going through my own medical um, trauma and struggle growing up, so I definitely didn't have access or time to like learn these things as a kid. Uh, but I was a very perceptive kid, and I've always known that my like medical access varied dramatically to Black people who also have osteogenesis imperfecta, to Native people who have OI, to Latino people who have OI. So it's important to me as someone who is disabled and someone who cares about disability, um, and helping, preserve our history as just people in general to then not sleep on organized history of Black Americans within the medical system and to understand distrust to better then be able to like not just encourage people receiving medical care or seeking out vaccinations or medical treatment, but to also be able to understand and then be informed to vote on policies and to recommend places and to do research. So I'm not also encouraging someone to go somewhere that could violently harm them. Anyway, I'm also reading. I was reading a little bit of this before I went live. Overground Railroad, The Green Book and the Roots of Black Travel in America by Candace C. Taylor. Mhm. And this one's description says the first book to explore the historical role and residual impact of the Green Book, a travel guide for Black motorists. Published from 1936 to 1966, the Green Book was hailed as the Black Travel Guide to America. At that time, it was very dangerous and difficult for African Americans to travel because Black travelers couldn't eat, sleep, or buy gas at most white owned businesses. The Green Book listed hotels, restaurants, gas stations, and other businesses that were safe for Black travelers. It was a resourceful and innovative solution to a horrific problem. It took courage to be listed in the Green Book, and Overground Railroad celebrates the stories of those who put their names in the book and stood up against segregation. It shows the history of the Green Book, how we arrived at our present historical moment, and how far we still have to go when it comes to race relations in America. For this one, I can pull the poem up for this one. Or the page itself honestly organized it well. So the page that I was on in this, I took a picture of it. Forgot to put my bookmark in, and this book has different pages, so I needed to get my clear sticky notes so I can annotate because I didn't want it to bleed and shit when I closed it. Um, but this one I got to page 84, and it was talking about men who returned to the States after having fought for freedom came home to a country that still dehumanized them. Links. Oh, wait, actually, it's page 84. Now I know that. I can open the book. Duh. Let's see here. 84. I'll start on 83. Da-da. These two editions opened. It's talking about the Green Book, and it says these two editions opened with a serious article about Black soldiers returning home from the war and their need for educational services. I was thinking about this and then went and read, like, pulled out this quote because I was listening to people still talking about Graham Plattner and his run. Um, and yeah, it reminded me of the difference in how white, you know, consenting adults, like, I know there's a lot of nuance with the US military. Um, Blackwater's different, for sure. So, like, the way that Black vets are not cared for and the way that then that, like, crack and pain in society is attempted to be, like, that party Democrats try to weaponize and utilize that pain and that understanding to then prop up people who enjoyed doing and causing harm and violence. And the way that they're pretending to support these white vets by wanting them to have political power over other people, while Black vets and vets of, any race that white people distance from whiteness are still not cared for. So insisting that this one person should gain notoriety and respect and this role, this position in politics, while skipping over actually doable in like change that they could conduct or help like support, um like housing people, medical care, like shit not lining up. Okay, but anyway, so I went and was reading this. Uh, and it starts. These two editions opened with a serious article about Black soldiers returning home from the war and their need for educational services. When African Americans joined to fight in World War II, it was with the intent of achieving a double victory over the fascism they were fighting abroad and victory over the racism they were fighting at home. Legions of the 1.2 million Black people who enlisted in the U.S. military hoped their service would prove they shared a common purpose with their countrymen and would ultimately humanize them in the eyes of white Americans. Unfortunately, the vast majority of Black men who returned to the States after having fought for freedom came home to a country that still dehumanized them. Langston Hughes saw this coming before the war ended when he wrote his poem Beaumont to Detroit, 1943, a reference to the bloody race riots that tore apart Beaumont, Texas, and Detroit, Michigan that summer. Take a drink of a drink. Oh, I need to go grab my water after this too. I forgot it. His poem says, "Looky here, America, what you done. Let things drift until the riots come. Now your policemen let your mobs run free. I reckon you don't care nothing about me. You tell me that Hitler is a mighty bad man. I guess he took lessons from the Ku Klux Klan. You tell me Mussolini's got an evil heart. Well, it must have been in Beaumont that he had his start. Because everything that Hitler and Mussolini do, Negroes get the same treatment from you. You Jim Crowed me before Hitler rose to power, and you're still Jim Crowing me right now, this very hour. Yet you say we're fighting for democracy. Then why don't democracy include me? I ask you this question because I want to know how long I got to fight both Hitler and Jim Crow. Um, and yeah, it says black soldiers returning from the war were likely just as disgusted as Langston Hughes was when he wrote this poem, but they probably weren't surprised to find that not much had changed. Um, Yeah, once black soldiers were stationed, they were often denied services outside the training camps. For instance, black soldiers stationed at Fort Leonard Wood near Rolla, Missouri on Route 66 were shut out of local restaurants and nightclubs and had to drive 80 miles to Graham's Rib Station in Springfield, Missouri for food, fun, and entertainment. This landmark restaurant and nightclub was opened in 1932 by an African American couple, James and Zelma Graham. It wasn't listed in the Green Book, but the on site motel built during the war offered lodging to black soldiers, giving them a safe place to stay so they wouldn't have to make the long drive back to their barracks at night. Graham's was the hot spot for entertainers. Little Richard and Pearl Bailey stayed there. The restaurant was demolished when Route 66 was widened, and the only remnant is a tourist cabin, which today serves as a shed for a law. Holy shit. As a storage shed for a law firm. Um, Culture's commitment to keeping black and white people separated, even at the nation's blood banks. Blood donation was a powerful symbol of patriotism, but in 1941, Black Americans were turned away when they tried to donate blood for the cause. The U.S. Army and Navy told the Red Cross they would accept blood only from white donors. The American Medical Association spoke out against the ban, and the director of Red Cross blood banks resigned in protest to no avail. The Army was so opposed to integration that it organized segregated redistribution centers, or what the Chicago Defender called Jim Crow centers, which were developed for returning soldiers to rest before they headed back into combat. 49 hotels were selected throughout the country for white soldiers to swim and play golf, tennis, and shuffleboard. For black soldiers, the Army planned to seize Harlem's Hotel Teresa and the Pershing Hotel located on Chicago's south side, both of which had no space for recreational activities. The Pershing Hotel was the largest black hotel in Chicago with 200 rooms, a beauty shop, a barbershop, a ballroom, and valet service. It was listed in the Green Book from 1947 to 1950. The Teresa was Harlem's most glamorous hotel, and it was considered the Waldorf Astoria of Harlem. It was listed in the Green Book in 1940, and then in every subsequent edition until 1967. The Army decided to take over these hotels during the height of their popularity. The Teresa, built in 1913, didn't always serve black people, but by 1947, the 300-room hotel, which was located right down the street from the Apollo Theater, predominantly hosted black movie stars, musicians, politicians, and athletes. The boxer Joe Louis lived at the Teresa, and he held his victory parties there while thousands of onlookers gathered outside hoping to get a glimpse of him. But yeah, really cool. Guys from the streets of the Persian, the NAACP and the Urban League and the YMCA and black newspapers throughout the country vehemently protested, demanding that President Roosevelt reverse the Army's decision. On September 30th, 1944, 4 days after the Army announced its plans, the Philadelphia Tribune published a scathing article asking, "What kind of people do the officials who run the United States Army think Negroes are anyhow? Do those who control the Army, those who make the rules and regulations, think that we are a bunch of ignorant notwits who possess none of those human attributes which place men above dumb driven animals? They make rules and regulations which embarrass, insult, and humiliate every colored person. In other words, the United States Army enforces anti-racial laws in America while seeking to destroy them abroad." Um, this incident proves conclusively that the Army has the power to abolish segregation within its own ranks. The fact that it does not do so proves that those in control do not want to do so, that they consider black people as less than men. Um, and then yeah, it's just an important time to be aware of this, not just understanding of disability, but then of humanity, which is the main attack when people like the president are attacking the ADA, um, and moving special education departments into criminal departments. It's walking back, not just, every intersectionality. It's not just about disability. It's also about being considered human and person, and your body being considered a human body. Uh, and yeah, just really good books. I definitely recommend both of them. I'm not done with both of them, so I can't really, I mean, good reviews. But yeah, very informative, really good so far. And now I will play my Stardew. Do my farming. Yeah, I think that with everything going up in cost, globally, but from my perspective as someone in the US, definitely seeing that in the US and people seeing game prices and these game companies, get more greedier. That investing in books is you can have the same experience and you own that shit. um, and that it never hurts to start learning. There's a lot out there already, to consume, digest, and then, I don't know, broaden your lived experience and understanding. And that it's not all over just because some corporations want us to think that everything is over and done. It's always been like this in different fonts, but it's always been like this, and we've always been here, and we're gonna always be here. And they can't decide that we're not here. I see something. I do that every time, at least once. Every time I start playing this game for the day, I accidentally smash a piece of my sidewalk. At this point, it's part of the routine. Battle my rage, I'm still just a little Stardew, pixelated dude in a cage. What can I say? How are you doing, Cher? Sorry. I had some books I wanted to share first thing, so I definitely said hey and then just didn't say shit. Oh wait, I'm gonna do those. Then last time I streamed, I know I made a lot of progress. I unlocked my farm on Ginger Island, and now I think I just need to needed to take over. Oh, I had started the crops growing actually. I remember. Oh, okay. I have some of the sprinklers still. Oh yeah, I came back and needed to get hay. Excuse me. I planted a bunch of grass. Now all my animals are good to go. Ooh, new Alabama Shakes album is coming out soon too. Remember its release date right now though, but I'm excited. I like them. I can hear my game too loud because I had my earbuds out last night. I had other stuff on. But it ranked up. I put down a bunch of speed. Oh yeah, I needed to take seeds. And I'd taken rare fruit seeds, but maybe I'll make some of these too. Versus putting these straight into wine. And then do I have a beach teleporty thing? I do not. Come here, horsey. I'm taking stuff over that I don't need to take over with me, but I already full sent going this way. So they will come with me. Oop. Sorry, I need to move my window down a little bit more again. I'll have to clean my neck. Oh, I forgot I needed to take my pan with me. I guess good thing I grabbed this. Dang it. I thought it was in here. It is. Okay. Oh my god, I forgot something else too. Forgot my crab cakes. Need those. And there's something else I thought of. Right. I just looked down and saw that I didn't put my bookmark back in my other book whenever I stopped reading it. Oopsies. That's alright. I underlined like 2 pages straight there, so I'll be able to flip through and find it easy. It's like, although I knew, and like I know that that kind of like research and then medical abuse was happening, I didn't know what's the, like I forgot it already. What's it called? Something, progesterone, something. Oh my god, the font in this book is so tiny too. It's a very dense book. Oh yeah. I didn't know about Depo-Provera. Like I didn't have the specific drug name. So that's good to have. And yeah. I think that especially in a time too when like a lot of white leftists are trying to trying to work and function off a basic understanding of politics that they've been, they've been shown and they've experienced, and then not also seeking out more educational resources. Um, like I see a lot of white leftists as another like white leftist trying to theorize surrounding like Black history that Black people have recorded themselves, and it's insulting to not listen then and to be still like pretending to theorize around very real things that if you just listened or put in a little more effort, um, you could find the answer to. It's not a, oh, I wonder. Like, we aren't men figuring out that empathy exists. We can do a little digging. We can be active comrades to people versus just self-idling, Pew, 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 pew. Gotta get this stuff at the dig site right away. Always a priority because you can get treasure from here. I'm trying to figure. I'm trying to finish that treasure or fossil stuff. Sorry, every time I drink fucking Dr. Pepper, I get so burpy, and then I act brand new and think like, oh, why am I so burpy? Like, bro, I think it's the fucking soda. Duh. Here, you know what? I'm gonna run grab my ice water. I'll be right back. Give me just a second. I can't run, but I can walk with determination, so I'm gonna do that. It'll be quick. Fast as hell. Oh, hey, Freya. How are you? Sorry, I just ran to get ice water, so I was away right when you sent that, but I'm doing all right. How are you? Nothing, just the normal stuff. My posture is good. I just got a little walk in, so walk poo. Wow. How are you? I'm glad to hear. Yay, good. Trying to get through Ginger Island right now. It's going well. Are you playing Stardew? Or what are you up to? I'm working on getting fossils. I also need to go put some stuff at my new, like, farm building I unlocked here. Here we go. And I'll plant these. Huh? You asking, like, if there's any exploring in this game? Sorry. Like you're just starting it? Or thinking about playing? I don't know. I feel like I should keep these fossils. Liver mail. Yeah, fuck it. I don't feel like listening to Nicki Minaj right now. Okay, cool. Now my mail from the other will come here too. Yeah, I can read your chat. I've been reading it. What's up? Oh, sorry. Just saw that. I started doing my thingy in my game. My dumbass. Sorry. Which other games do I play? I love indie games, so I'll play just about any indie game that I can get my hands on. Honestly, I love playing all games, but if I could think of like right now I've been playing a mix of survival and like crafters. So I've been playing this for a long time, but trying to actually get through it. I've been playing Memento, I've been playing Solar Punk, No Man's Sky. On PlayStation right now I'm playing Sorrows and Sandland, and I'm working still on I just started it on stream. The Last Berserker Kazan, I think is what it's called. Um, and then I'm playing my Switch right now too. So I'm playing Pokopia, finally back to that. Want to finish it, finish the story at least, and then I'll hop in and out of that game to build. You play Valorant, COD, CS2, etc. Nice. Um, and yeah, I got Star Fox, but I feel like I got so hyped about it that it's hard for me to start playing it because I get that way about games sometimes. I get that way about a lot of like random shit like media that's supposed to be really good. It's pretty annoying. Yeah. What have you been playing most recently though? If you had a fave of those, or do you just mostly play like not just like in a, negative way, but do you stick primarily to multiplayer games with PvP? Because if you do, I respect. I am I'm an anxious girly, so I have to diversify my cortisol source. Can't always play those. I did get into I played a lot of Call of Duty in college, especially like Black Ops 3. Haven't played Valorant, but I've watched people play it. It looks cool. And I did recently try CS2. Um and I don't have enough people in my personal life who want to play that with me. And the voice chat in that was terrifying, so I did uninstall it, but I know I'll probably end up playing it again in the future. Just, yeah. I do watch anime. Yeah, I love anime. Like, I'm a sponge. I love all this shit. I love art. I love art. I love, nature, and I love then people and seeing human art, so it's cool. Do you have a favorite anime? Like one of the heaviest questions known to fucking man. When someone says they watch anime, oh, what's your favorite? Let's see. I could put down one more sprinkler. 1, 2. Anyway, 2. My two favorite series are One Piece and Solo Leveling. Ooh, those are good ones. I haven't seen One Piece. I want to watch One Piece. But that's one of the things I was talking about when I know something's supposed to be amazing. So I feel like overwhelmed starting it is One Piece. Um, and then I really liked solo leveling. It's fucked though, but it was good. I think solo leveling might have been one of those animes though where like I watched it, but I also would have like I'd either read a book or have like my Steam Deck out or my Switch whenever I was watching it because like it I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It just felt like one of those. Do I stream daily? Yeah. Well, just about. Right now I've been struggling more financially and stuff, which then it like impacts my mental health, of course, and physical health. So I'm a little more shaky. Sometimes I just don't that day. But I've been pretty good about it. I have a schedule up on my stream, like I almost said Steam, on my Twitch profile for the channel. You're always welcome to check that out. I also always ping when I'm live. What do I do besides gaming? Any hobbies or activities? I love writing. Writing for sure has been the deepest and longest, surviving love of my life. I love writing. I love reading. I love painting. Um, which is why I love games so much. Uh, I'm a big fan of just sitting and like listening to music actively and like reading the lyrics and like boring shit. I'm a boomer. I'm 30, going on 300. But like those things, what else could I think of that I like? I love hanging out with my dogs. I have 2 rescue puppies. Pups. Love spending time with them. And when they were younger, absolutely loved training them as puppies. Another thing that was like the highlight of my life. So cool. So fun. Oh, these are pineapple. I thought they were rare seeds for a second. Okay, I can plant these too. What about you? Oh, and I love like nerd shit, like listening to political stuff, but then it bothers me, so then I have to calm down and stuff. Ooh, I do love comics too. Gaming, watching anime, reading comics. And then you do freelancing as your main work? Oh shit. Cool. That's sick. I'm glad you're doing well with that. It's definitely not easy to be any, freelance worker these days. So I hope you're doing all right, taking care of yourself too, even though you're on that work grind. I think my favorite animes, I love Land of the Lustrous was one of my favorites that I've ever watched. And then Hunter x Hunter, I rewatch like every year. Draw, make PNG tubers, create 2D models and rig them, and also make 3D models. Oh shit, sick. That's cool. Going well for you too, I assume. Like you enjoy it. Not like going well for you as in monetary, money wise, but as in fulfillment. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. I don't know if I want to become a famous anything, but hey, I hope one day I can pay my bills. Rage, I stop being negative. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. That would have been so sad. I hope your work continues to flourish too. Whatever you do. Like to see your work. I don't want to click any links, but I have my Discord. But do you have a portfolio site, or do you have a work that you like publish through a lot? I can look up. I'd look it up. Fuck it. Sorry. That's also not me being like too good for other people. It's that I get anyone who streams on Twitch, you get a lot of like bot and AI artists. So it's just like people are, I guess, caught off guard a little bit when it's real people. Unfortunately. A portfolio I have a DC that I share it with. Ah. Okay, I think. Oh, wait, I might have turned off my commands. Let me see. Dang, I did. Um, Crap. Let me look. Hold on. I'll just go and copy my Discord invite link now. Where's this, invite to server, copy link. And here you go. If you want to join that, there's an art channel in there. You can send your work in. Of course, as long as it's not like AI, it's fine. If it's straight up like AI generated, then I do usually not share it, but you said you do 2D modeling and all that stuff, so I'm gonna trust you. PC server also sent a friend request. I do not add anyone as friends on Discord because I don't trust the platform's security. So I also don't DM with people that I don't interact with directly already, unfortunately. But posting in the channels that are listed would be the best way to get a hold of me. Just because I also have past history of stalking and abuse, and I just don't want to. I have very solid boundaries when it comes to those personal access routes, but otherwise the channel is, you can see there's not that many people in there. I'm gonna see what you send. So it'll be all right. Even though it might seem kind of like I'm being, high and mighty, oh, I'm too good for people, it's that I've just had stuff go the wrong way and the bad way before. So just gotta look out for myself too, even though I do want to have an online community. Wait, what does this one do? Warp tower? Oh shit. Okay, that's what I need to use gold walnuts on next. Oh my god, I'm not listening to John Mayer right now. I can't. Sorry guys. Sorry team. I feel like I'm just not in a financial place too where I could easily like deal with any weird situations. So I just gotta be extra cautious. But yeah. Having to worry about my safety in that way in the past ate up like a lot of my college experience and my early adulthood, so I just don't want to risk it again, even though I know most of the time people are fine and they're not going to be weird. I don't think you're weird, right, Freya? You're not a weirdo. Hee-hee-ha. Oh yeah, I unlocked a shortcut now. Yay. Oh yeah, I finished this mine actually. But, oh my god, there's little guys. Little monkeys in the fire. Ooh, what can I catch? A present. Physics 101. I love that they're like dipping their little toesies in the lava. Like, look at that one. And sir, because it's client work, I can send it to you privately. Don't worry, I'm not a bot. I'm a real person. Um, if you want a message, so if you try to send me a DM on Discord, it will send me a message request so I can view it without opening the message. And I would probably do that, and then I can like chat in the main channel. But yeah, I won't be chatting over DMs, unfortunately. Would love to be able to trust that, but I just can't. Yeah. Because yeah, I mean, the Discord is tiny. So even if you want to post and then delete it, I don't care. Like, I don't have a bunch of online people in there. Don't really have, like, people that I would confidently say are, like, friends online. Um, but I'm also, like, really anxious to ever call someone a friend until they, like, tell me, no, like, for real, I consider you a friend. Then I'm like, okay, I would consider it then. Oh my god. What is this? A fire? An eel? Oh, fuck, I suck. What the fuck? Sorry, I had to click away to skip a song. Fuck DJ Khaled. Oh, okay. Yep. So that makes it so I can fast travel to the end. So then each thing refreshes between. I should go back to the beginning. Nope. Ah, I want my character turn around. Oh my god, what? Oops. But what are you up to? Are you working? What are you Stardewing? I will not be adding you as a friend. I am so sorry. I don't really use my Discord like that. Honestly, I don't like, I've got Instagram. You can follow me on there, but I still will not be DMing upon you. Now, if you're like I feel like if you're someone that comes around a lot and stuff, then maybe, but still. I think a lot of people in the past who have streamed who like end up chatting over DMs, it's kind of not gone the best historically. Oh wait, let me... my Instagram is on my Twitch profile. Yeah, sorry. I am permanently disabled and I've not really received any support for so long. I don't have the energy to like try to, I don't know. I'm really hesitant because I just feel like my effort and my thoughts and, you know, all that have just, I don't want to just be used. And I feel like I open myself up to that sometimes with my naively wanting to help everyone. And thinking it's not, you know, risky. Okay, cool. I'll probably check your shit out whenever I'm off stream. That sounds good. Sorry. It's really hard. Someone new to feeling like I can set boundaries is really hard for me to like, and you know, stand on them without feeling like an asshole. But yeah, I just gotta take care of me now too. 'Cause I'm tired, and if I'm this tired, I gotta at least have me. But yeah, if I see your stuff and you don't look like, you know, you're trying to steal my identity, then I'll drop you a follow and stuff. You're a working artist, like hell yeah. I love finding new artists and like sharing work and stuff. I just don't want to privately DM and all that. Don't want to risk it. Maybe that's me being a little extra, I don't know. I know I'm getting to that point with EMDR for my complex post-traumatic stress disorder, where I'm going to work on reprocessing stuff that I think influences that level of hesitancy and fear with other creators. Because it is true a lot of the time, and those parts formed to protect me because shit was happening, but like, I don't want to be a butthole. You fall back. Oh. We'll see. I loved this album when it came out. I was addicted to it, or obsessed with it, not addicted. But I'm pretty sure that he was like an asshole or something, but I don't know. I liked the album when it came out. It was catchy. Listened to it at work and then on the way to work a lot to like hype myself up for social time. feel like before social stuff sometimes and like work and stuff, like I know I'm anxious, so then I like accelerate that with music and like singing along and shit in the car. And it's like I'm anxiety bending. Like I know I'm anxious, but let me use it to get myself more excited about having to go to this thing. And it helps. Pretty effective. And honestly, getting diagnosed and stuff and as an adult, I can tell it's probably like stimming is literally what I'm doing. Oh god. Anything you want, I do buy. Oh no, it's 2 a.m. Fuck. Where will it take me? The bookseller is in town. Is it in this town? Oh crap, what did I lose? Tomorrow we're holding the egg festival in the town square. Men just follow back. What? Yeah, I'm probably not gonna follow back right now. And I'm not promising I'll follow back. No offense, no offense. I don't use social media like that. And, maybe that's why I struggle so much. But I used to use social media way more and engage with people way more privately. Um, and it always ended up with the people that I was engaging with learning and improving and succeeding. And then I was like, damn, and why am I back here? And it's like, oh, I'm exerting all of my energy trying to support other people. And I'm never giving that up. I'm never going to be a selfish person. But I also have to have some kinds of like boundaries because not having any boundaries in the past did not work out for me. And that doesn't reflect on the other people. It reflects on me. Tomorrow we're holding the egg festival in the town square. You should arrive between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. if you'd like to attend. You wouldn't want to miss the annual egg hunt. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, if you stick around for a while, like, and I see that, it's chill, that might change, but it is, yeah. I know my classifications in society and the way that can increase the likelihood of shit not going well. So I'm just trying to be smart about stuff. It's tough. Tough to do. Do I have another thingy open on this? Dang it, I don't. I don't really need that sonar one. And I have no more seeds. Dang. I should have brought the seed makers here. I'll check the dig site and then I'll go back to my farm. Sounds good. Yeah. Go back to the dig site to check for fossils and then I'll go back to my farm. Because then the next day will be the egg hunt. Well, I guess I'll stay here and fish for a bit too. I forgot where the dig site is. And I forgot I have a map. Oh, okay, I was going the right way. Need to go north. Pick up the ginger. See if any of those bones or things I can donate. Nope. How do I get to the left side? See if I go with this. To jungle. Wonder if there's water in there I could fish in. Oops. Extremely motivated to get back into writing more frequently too and posting. I've been thinking over shit this week and like, oh, if I spent less time online other than when I'm like streaming, I'm really there are people who are resourced who like be in chats and be active in other people's communities more, who can afford to pay their bills and aren't, like struggling to get food and to keep their housing and not able to go to the doctor and stuff. It's like I need to rest in that, maybe focus on myself a little bit too, a little more than I have been over the last few years, or my entire life, to be honest. So I really want to get back into writing again too. Zach's, do you want some? Yeah, sure. Grab me something good. Snacks sound yummy. And it just sucks because I want to do it all, and I've believed for so long that it was possible to do it all, that you could support other people and still like survive and be in my position. And now I'm just kind of like, well, at some point, I do have to lock it, and like I've been locking it and trying to help myself, but it's like I gotta reprioritize my internet bill, my power bill, stuff like that. So, just in a little growing period, but I really want to start publishing more writing again. Even though I can't like afford to submit for formal publishing. And then I think I need to get back in touch with some disability supports that didn't require like they considered me disabled, even though for like Medicaid I'm denied. And so it's like I need to get a hold of them too and see what I can do. And then free legal aid, and stuff like that. But starting with writing, Good start. How the heck do I get down there? Just dots, maybe, and then go straight left. Yeah. I wish society could work like that we could all just, like, organically all, like, support each other and stuff, but especially the older I get, I'm 30 now, it's like, if I support anyone in, like, creative fields that's abled, as a permanently disabled person who is marginalized because of their disability, like, I can never get to the place that they get. And then especially if I'm not even putting energy into myself, I just gotta put energy into myself. And yeah, hard. So I don't want to be I don't want to disengage. And I wish we could all just kind of support each other without, I don't know. Have some like class solidarity. I guess I just gotta maybe fish off of. Ooh. Dang it. I was really hoping I'd get a fossil right then. Okay. I'm gonna go back to Stardew, like, the main island. And I'm gonna see if I can upgrade my pan. Actually, but that'll make it so it takes days to use it again. I'm that mystery person over here. Okay, they're not there. Well. Hello, cat. But yeah, I wonder you're looking, but I was like, oh my god, fuck you. Why did you say yuck? What are you up to? Yeah, sometimes I've done that in other people's Twitch chats, and I always feel like I look like I'm like, I don't know, going through some shit. Ooh. Nice. What school supplies did you get? Or did you not get any? I haven't been there in a while. Playing my Stardew. Nice. Oh, I made myself a little me that's, oh, let me move where chat is whenever I have this up. Hold up. Is yeah, have it like right here. Yeah, it's the little me. But also like inspired by I made it quick before I went live. So it's not one for one, but inspired by how the little, Stardew characters look, how they're all boxy and they got their little like square jaw and stuff. So it's kind of close-ish in vibe. But yeah, that way I didn't have to stream on camera today because I did not feel like being visually perceived. But I did want to stream. I wanted to play Stardew. Hang out, so. Yeah. And like, my relationship with no cam streaming is so like iffy because abled people and like rich people, like if you already are successful, people don't care if you know cam stream. But then people act like if you know cam stream and you're not like rich, then you must be a weirdo. And it's usually just because when someone like disabled people utilize an accessibility tool and abled people get a hold of it, they like to, take it over. Like, this is a good way to utilize it. I don't know. Let me be a little mentally ill and still play my gaming too. Yeah. Oh my god, especially if you're femme and stream and don't have a cam on, then they're like, people get real misogynistic with it and icky. But I can't remember. School starts back up for people in August, right? That's why there's school supplies out again. Okay, yeah. That's what I thought. I'm playing my big playlist again too, so it's random stuff. I'm like over forever. I would love. I really want to get to the point and maybe have a stream day. If I had enough people in chat and then could do it. But I would love to make a streaming playlist. Be able to share that and then people can add what they want. And then I'd love to make it a playlist that like I update in text too, so it wouldn't require someone to utilize like the company Spotify. They can make their own little playlist on whatever device or platform they use. I always liked the idea of that with like what are they called? Like newsletters, writing newsletters and stuff. Playlists. Like a stream playlist. Sorry. Is my music too loud? Oh. Or can you just not hear? Oh my god. A little bit? Ooh, okay, good to know. Is that a little better? Plugs, so you're hearing the best right now? Either. Damn, are you sick? Or is it just like something that normally happens to you with allergies? Because that sucks. Yeah. You're good. I'd rather adjust it for you than for someone who can hear it just fine. So fuck it. Yeah. Other people can always just turn that shit up if they wanted to. No offense. But, you know what I mean. The next day in game is like the Easter festival. We do that, the egg festival, not Easter. Happened before allergies. Dang. So then, yeah, it just made it even worse with the pressure. Especially, too, like, I have more weird, funky ear stuff after having COVID the first time, let alone the other, 3 times or whatever the fuck. So, that I don't think helped. Oh, fuck. What did I just do? I just teleported to the fucking desert. Oh, well. Oopsie. Let's see what's for sale in here. Buy me some seeds, I guess. What's this shirt? I don't know if I have that yet. I probably do, though. Those. Nah, I don't need anything over there. Go back to the other location that I accidentally went away from. Eat for the night. Oh my god, why am I so tired? I feel the level of tired I usually am when I don't take my stimulant med. That's surprising. Like, what the fuck? The festival is setting up. Ooh, okay, cool. I'm gonna look. Oh my god, cute. Those reward stickers are cute as shit. Trays are cute. The cowboy cat. Dang. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to get some shit eventually. That's cute. The clear note card thingy is cute too. Which I assume has stickers that you already had, right? Yeah. I need to check out like Dollar Tree too around this time. Have you checked there yet to see what they might have new? Oh shit, a cute little mini locker that'll get me. That's like the little mini toolboxes. Oh, I never remember the brand, but you know what I mean. Love shit like that. Shit. Yeah, I need to go check there too. Cobalt, yeah. Cobalt lockers like things too now too. Oh shit. Cobalt's the brand of the toolbox that I was thinking of. And then I like the Is it Kobo or no? That might be the reader. Todo or Toto or something. The like Japanese toolbox brand. I love those too. Don't see them available on the Lowe's app. Dude. Shoulda. I need to see them. I'm gonna have to look them up. But before I forget to do the egg hunt. Pretty expensive. Ah, shit. Well, you know, I can appreciate them from a distance. Oh, the Japanese toolbox. Yeah, they're expensive. They're good quality. They're worth being pricey, but it's hard out here. I can't, you know, $40 for a toolbox that small. Can't really do it. I did it for my watercolor paints. Otherwise, that's for a more stable financial time in my life. Stable finances, I guess. But yeah, they would last for like forever. They're so nice too, just the finish of them, the material, they're nice. Time for the highlight of today's festivities, the annual spring egg hunt. Calm down, kiddos. You're going to need all your energy if you hope to find the most eggs and take home the exclusive prizes. You thought they were like 100? Ooh, maybe they're like 100 for like a toolbox. I was thinking of the little one that I got. It was like 40, but it's like the size of a note card, an index card. How's everyone ready? Honestly, so yeah, for a full-size toolbox, it has to be around $100. The egg hunt begin. Easy. I'm about to get all of the eggs. Never mind, I panicked. Now I'm probably gonna lose. Yeah, they thought. 140 to 160 online. Holy shit. Boy, oh, okay. It was something like that. I was still pretty off. These. Oh man, I was so close to another one. 140 to 160 is wild. Gets to pick up litter this efficiently. We'd have cleanest town in this side of the gem sea. And now the winner of this year's egg hunt. Me, Yay! Here's your prize, enjoy. Unlike previously when really going hard in stationery and was sad about the cost. Yeah. Because they look really cute too for on a shelf. Well, that's it for this year's Egg Festival. Thanks for coming, everyone. Ooh, I want to quick see if I can fix it not showing your badge since you subscribe. 1 second. Let me go to my... Oh, not channel, because then it's going to just pull my stream up. Creator dashboard. Go to community. Let's try those tabbed index cards. Too tall for your box. Fuck! Dang it. No. Or nor. Monetization. Let me make sure it's not showing this. Okay, because I don't know if it'll like show private information. Oh, trimming them would be smart. Like trim from the bottom of the card. That way the tab doesn't look weird. I've got subscriptions, subscriber badges, and go base. And if I go back, viewing. And then you know what? A way to make it, I could make my Discord channel subscriber only, but just, I don't know. I don't want to monetize. I feel bad. Blech. We'll see. Okay. Why the frick won't it let yours? Let tier 2 and tier 3 subscribers show off their support with badge flare. If you on Twitch, are you on Twitch on your phone actually? Because if you are, then I'm not going to make you try this. Otherwise, if you go into chat, oh, you're on computer. Okay, if you go into chat and you click on your name, or you click on like the little, yeah, you click on your name, does it let you pick your like chat identity? And then does it let you choose what badge you use for it? Let me look at someone else's Twitch channel to figure it out. Let's click on his songs. Hold on. Oh, like there's a little picture of your badge on the left of the send message bar, and then if you click that, it pulls up your badge options. Does it show that you can use like channel badges and then have a subscriber badge? Because otherwise, if it doesn't, then so then I wonder why it doesn't work. First in the diamond one, yeah. Weird. Wonder why it doesn't work for yours. The first in diamond or does it let you like equip one or something, or like click on one? You don't have to like fuck with it if you don't want to, but I'm curious because it feels messed up that you subscribe longest. You don't have your dogs out. Okay, so it pulled up, it put the ditto, at least. Weird. Maybe it's because you're VIP? Or because you're first. I don't know. But it's fine either way. I was just curious. It's just kind of weird. Can't chat with something. Yeah. You're good. I already closed my end of it because seems like there's nothing, you know. Nothing really technically like wrong. It's just that I bet it's the first and VIP that one of those like I bet it's the well, actually I don't even know. Yeah, but it's fine. I'm just like for a second I was trying to think of what it could actually first and VIP, yeah. And that's good enough. I know you're not devastated to not have your dogs out like that. That would be cute. The Ditto's cute though too. Tomorrow begins a 3-day festival in Calico Desert with the bus back in order. Oh yeah, that's the normal festival. Dude, I feel like with my freaking history, I feel like I've said this to you before, but I literally feel like I have to have like the streaming rules and security online of like a famous person, but I'm broke as fucking definitely not famous. Someone's trying to add me on Discord, and I'm like, hey. I mean, not someone, but actually, they might have already left. Yeah, I'm like, I can't do that. I don't want to risk it again. I feel like it would be way easier if I could be more naive. Oh, like adding random people and stuff online. Like how careful I am about it now with trying to stream and stuff. Oh man. Yeah, like I have like a very I'm not gonna like DM with anyone, like, you know, chat with anyone in DMs that I don't already like recognize from other communities or something, and I have a general understanding of their ethics and whatnot. I feel like that's a thing in like most careers though. Like I wasn't always giving my phone number out to like coworkers and stuff too. And physical at the office jobs. Yeah. I still feel kind of like an asshat. I'm gonna say no. Man, I just don't have enough walls in my. Oh, I could take this to my other house at the beach. I think that the sewer had wherever actually let me grab some. I think we should have some flooring and stuff. Take this there. I'll take this there. Take stuff from my other house. Okay. Paper. It's flooring. Damn. Back to Ginger. Oh, I don't need my Discord open anymore. Oh. Ugh. Okay. We have this. Oh yeah, I don't think I was supposed to harvest the stuff that it wanted me to grow. Crap, and I just remembered. Well. Then and hmm? Hmm. A spaceship. Well, I will have to go here. Of course. Okay. Then put out more of these crops. Okay. And then all these. Hopefully I didn't... I feel like the crops that I needed to grow for the quest all were not the carrots. I think the carrots were just extra. Now the garlic, I think, might be an issue, but 1, 2, there. 1, 2. 1, 2. Mm. Mhm. Oops. Whoops. Ow. Up there. Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. Planted some more crops over here. I need to go mine the dig site, but let me actually put some of this away. I should bring some chests to this house too, like a workbench. Mhm. Er, like +3 mining. Okay. So I'm gonna say if it helped me find treasure, I would want to switch that really quick. But suppose not. Did trimming your cards work, or are you just gonna work on that like in the future kind of thing? Not right now. I can't remember if you said you were doing it now or not. Worry about it later. Nice. Yeah, problem for future you. Make some movements physically down. Nice. That sounds comfy. Ooh. I need to. I fast traveled ahead, like I time traveled ahead on Pokopia, so now I feel like I can't really play it. I need to wait and let it catch up. I don't want to mess up my save. I don't know. Makes me nervous. Oh, nice. Ooh. That sounds fun. Yo, they're so rarely now. Ugh. I miss Joanne Fabric. Wait, there's a whole little path. Okay, so this way, this way. Did it without remembering and fast travel for Animal Crossing in the past. Oh god. Nice. That is unfort. Oh. I found a golden walnut up there. Mm-hmm. I'm closing was so sad. Oh shit. Oh well. Never showed up at the boat, so I went looking for you. Found you sprawled out in the dirt with a couple of parrots pulling gold out of your pockets. Had to drag you all the way down to the boat. Your legs feel like two freshwater shrimp. Willie. Wow. The birds stole from me. What the fuck? I'm gonna run grab a drink, and I don't need to pee yet. But I'm gonna run grab a drink quick. I'll be right back. Ah! I got one. Oh, what are you working on in Pokopia, though? I'll see it whenever I get back. But I gotta run downstairs. Oops. Okay, let me put my earbuds back in. Random stuff. Replacing bloken. Oh, we ain't bloken. Just random little stuff like replacing broken tiles, etc. Less thinking needed, which is nice. Oh yeah, that's what I've been trying to put off, but I'm excited to do once I'm done. To head empty, go around and like make my little like locations. I don't know what they're called. They're not like arcs. Maybe like zones. Make all the little zones cute. And that it's like, it's not like Animal Crossing where it won't be covered with weeds the next time I get on to work on it, which is nice. Although I do like the idea that stuff keeps growing and stuff on Animal Crossing, but when you forget for a long time and you got a shitload of weeds, it's a little unfortunate. Okay. Get back to the grind. End up going to pee too. That way I wouldn't have to just get back up right away. Like, let me be responsible. Back to the dig site. Come on, drink your poop. Oh. Okay. Ugh. Yeah. Maybe once I get to a certain point in Stardew, like trying to find these, if I still don't find the fossils I need, now I'm thinking about Pocopia. That sounds nice. Like a little Pocopia sounds pretty nice right now. What I've been doing like at the end of the day every day. A little Pocopia time in. Need to go to the other coast and fish. Start doing a little in the morning as long as you stay up and work. Ooh, that'd be cute. That'd be a nice way to kind of like start the day. And get the brain working too, because it's all like colorful and cutesy and light. But it would be a good way too to encourage, like, not that you really need the encouragement to keep ahead at work because it's just time. Like, there's not enough time and it always refills and shit. So it's not really like a fault of yours, but that might like make keeping caught up feel less fucked all the time too if you can have a little treat. Yeah. Let's make it feel less poo-poo. Less poo-poo stinky. Encouragement, excitation, very real. Yeah. Definitely get that. What'd you know? Through grad school, etc. Dude, yeah. Especially with the workload you have. Makes sense to get even harder to like conquer, you know, or, you know, work with. Oh shit. Bad time to try to grab my drink with my other hand. Need to lock in. Need to tactically dissociate. tactically, not tactic. Like tactile. Come on, fishy. Whoops. Mother. Mm. Mm. Dude, we haven't played Mario Kart in so long. I just thought about that. These dang fossils. Uh, what the heck? No. Oh my god. After this, okay, well, not after that. After the next fish, I need to go talk to one of the people on the island. I forgot. After this fish, I'll go talk to. Fruit, fish, and foraged food. It's a good diet. I feel as healthy as ever. Okay. Who asked me to find stuff? Wasn't that way? Eat my crab cakes. Like it's at the jungle. Or buried in the west. Who did I talk to on this island? It was like a frog. There's a big frog, and it wanted me to grow stuff at my farm. I think it was in here. Yes. You must grow for me that sweet delight which is both pink and juicy. Do not pluck it from the earth. I wish to see it in its natural state. However, it is still but a child. Come back when it has matured. Okay. I need to go grab more garlic and more wheat from my other farm because I was definitely supposed to keep that growing here, then just show him at the end. But I think I should just plant them in their own thing so I don't forget. No, I can put them right there. Dang, it's already like 4:30 almost. Yeah. What's up, Dad? Tactical sponge. You off work? Nice. Happy weekend to you. Happy weekend. It's a freaking weekend. Bam, bam, bam. Grab these to put in this other chest. I know I accidentally put away my crab cakes because I do it every time. Tempted to partake in a little Fortnite, too. We'll see. In here that I could move. Okay, let me put those in there for now. Keep it down. So, I don't know. Need to go to Mayor Lewis's house as well. What are you looking forward to the most with your weekend, Tactical Sponge? Did I just get? Oh, pigs. Cutting grass in 95-degree heat. Nice. That's interesting. That's another wild way that, like, these corporations and our administration are, like, really fucking us over as civilians, as people. All these corporations can afford to survive this heat that's coming along with climate change and global warming, which stems from their direct, like, you know, behavior and harm they contribute to the environment. And then they can just pay people to, like, mow their fucking lots and shit. And it's another way that public health is impacted. Like, more people have to also meet these city codes and infrastructures that were formed when it was not this wild. Like, especially with, like, HOAs and stuff, but also just city code in general. People get in trouble for it looking like their grass is too long, or they're not weeding enough. And businesses don't have to worry about that. Pretty annoying. More incidents of heat stroke. I would assume it would also cause an increased risk of things like skin cancers. Okay, what else did I need? Came back here. Oh yeah, I needed to get seeds for the stuff I accidentally pulled that I needed to grow. Wheat and garlic. Oh yeah, last time they were all inside in the fridge. Here's a head of garlic. Melons are still growing. I feel like I might have had to grow a leek as well. And I'll just take a carrot in case, because I can't remember. And there's wheat. Am I missing it? You have an actual thing you're looking forward to with your weekend, though? Think of something good? Not like good as an impressive, but like, you know, even if it's just like sitting on your ass, fuck it. Be excited about the little stuff where we're granted as workers and the working class. Bam, 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 bam. That. I guess these weren't what I needed. The turnips or what? Let me look it up quick. Since I'm on a handy dandy little PC. Forget that is an option. Mind say hi? Okay. In the summer. I need all the Since all crops can grow on Ginger Island in any season, there's no need to wait until the right time. Cool. Proper seeds first. Read on the descriptions of where and how to acquire them. So I needed to grow melon seeds, which I have growing. Wheat seed, garlic seed. And that's it? Okay, cool. That's it. Oh, I'm about to pass out again. Dang it. Oh, I'm cracked. I didn't pass out. That had to be right in time. This is where I have stuff like that. That goes away. Okay, and I have no other geode type thing on me. I'm pretty sure none of that is stuff that I had needed to take. I'm gonna put that away and that away. I didn't need a carrot. Or that. Wheat, garlic, and melons. Yep. I take with me over there. Rug, a sofa, model ship, a couple more windows, circular rug, wood panels, and a dresser. Bow down, bow down, bow down, bow bow bow. Oh, I gotta wait till 8 a.m. Oh, I didn't bring a chest again. Oh, well, I brought a dresser. Okay. I need to go to my farm and I need to go to the dig site. Are those it? Yeah. Okay. Then, let me get rid of some stuff in my inventory again first. Needs to be like that. Whoops. I will put it like this. Gosh dang it. Let me see what this looks like. Do that. Can these only be used outside? Can't be placed outdoors. So where must be placed on the wall? Oh. How about there? And then I end up bringing more. I'll bring these mixed seeds as well. Bring all this stuff so when I go back to the other island I take it with me. That. Oh, wait. I do need to have an inventory slot, though. just leave them. Go talk to the frog. You must grow for me that sweet delight, which is both pink and juicy. Do not pluck it from the earth. I wish to see it in its natural state. Yes, I have something to show. Cute. Yes, this is it. It's ow. It's bringing me back to the old days, sunny days, when things were sweeter. Oh, I could take a big, juicy bite, but I won't. For a bit. Yes, I'm very pleased. Here, this is for you. Walnuts. It's just see the long yellow thing which tickles the skin and waves in the wind. I do not have that to show you yet. That is the wheat that I accidentally picked already. I gotta wait to grow them. Now I can sell these. I need to go to the dig site. I accidentally double clicked the skip button. Okay. Hint. Now there's some great fishing on this island. From what I know, many of the fish enjoy nibbling on ancient bones. Yeah, which is because when you fish, you catch the other part of that steak section. Which is why I've been fishing. Finish the quest. Okay. I must go fish. Canning. Which is also another way I can find these. Ooh, fossilized tail. I'm pretty sure that's one of the ones I need. Did another one of those sites pop up? No. Let me go turn in this tail before I forget. You've outdone yourself, Sadie. This is one of the most pristine specimens I've ever seen. Thank you. Okay. No worries, dude. Ready to get more. Hmm. I'll get him. Okay, I was worried I was actually gonna die right then. Holy shit, I'm just locked in. Okay, survived. So many snake skulls. Meow, meow. Wow. Blue discus. I feel like I've caught most of the fish in this game, other than like the stingray. Still haven't caught that. I noticed a spot for me to go pan in the river. Don't distract me. Or if I can get fossils from these mussels. I don't think so, but... Huh. Snake vertebra. If I can. I should be breaking all these mussels every time. Getting gold walnuts from them is worth it alone, too. Whoops. no. Oh, shit. I've caught plenty of super cucumbers. Stingray, please. If I'm not gonna get treasure, I'd at least like to get a fish that is beneficial for me to get. But oh well. My God. Okay, don't need that. Don't really need the copper. Grab the pearl. Super cucumber row. I already have skeletal hands, so I know I don't need that. Okay, I need to go back to my little house on this map. The wrong way. Sleep for the night. It's been okay. I've just been chilling on this. I did a bit of reading before I went live and kind of like hopped around to different streams to see what people were up to. Yeah. Not too bad of a day. Pretty low key. I wish it was cooler outside so I could go be outside, to be honest. But I'm happy to be on Stardew and chilling on stream. Reading my stream too, I had like shared a couple parts from books that I'm reading that I thought were really informative, so that was fun. I was like talking about books. But yeah, not too bad. How's your day been? Tactical Spoonge. Oh, I get golden walnuts just from growing crops here. Like harvesting them. Which means I definitely need to stay on top of doing that. Bring some seed makers here too. So this could be like kind of self-sustainable farm-wise. Wait, I want to make wine out of them. Alright, nobody complains that somebody broke the work phone. Yeah. Fun fun. Did you figure out how it got broken? Right up here. Without like doxing your workplace. Like, you know. So put it on the high shelf and it fell off of it. Man, what the fuck? And so then someone was just like, I don't know what happened. Like, bro. Awkward. Oh no. They still shouldn't like, ooh, I finished the snake part. They still shouldn't be expected to like pay for that or anything, but it's just funny that to not be like, oh yeah, I broke it. You've outdone yourself, Sadie. This is one of the most pristine specimens I've ever seen. Thank you. And would you look at that? With this donation, we've got another full set of that piece completed. I've got a little something waiting for you behind the counter when you're ready for it. Oh, good. I told her if I'd go home. That's so fucking funny. Like your words. It was unfortunate. Mango sapling. I need the banana. Hint. Found any golden coconuts on the island? It's rumored that many interesting things can be found inside of them. Oh. I took them to my other house, I think. Might have to go back to the other island for sure. Get seed makers. And have those opened up. That's funny though. That's so unfortunate. Pick the work phone again. Wait, you're joking, right? They weren't actually fired, right? Well, yeah, not to. I got what you meant. I know you're using voice to text or whatevs. So I assumed, and then if I assumed wrong, I know you'd correct me, surely. Surely. Make sure. They could take the work phone home with them as well. That's fucking funny. Wait, they weren't really fired though, correct? Because if they were, that is so fucked. No. Oh, okay, cool. Not that it would actually, like, it wouldn't impact me at all, but like, I wouldn't want to be laughing over someone actually losing their job, because horrible time for that to happen for anyone. Okay, I did take the golden coconuts to my other home. I need to bring back some seeds too. Return to the dog. Let me see if... Actually, I think it's at the Wizard's Tower that I can change my appearance. I think about it. Wait. Horseradish. What do they want now? Listen, I'll give you something nice. Kale juice and pickled wild horseradish. Bam, bam, bam. Why'd you call me Alphabet, Brev? Wanted to see the wizard about changing your appearance. Oh, no shit. God, I'm dumb. Okay. That's funny. Sorry. Oopsie. Warps you to the mountains, warps you to the beach. I should craft that. Oh, an island one. Oh yeah, that's why I needed bananas. Pain. Alright, let me pull up a little notepad. And I need 500k gold, 5 iridium bars, 10 clams, and 10 coral. Okay. The island one I for sure cannot make it. But I could have sworn there was a way to literally change my appearance here. Oh, it was... I had to do like teleporty things. And then at the end you plop into here. Like, you come up out of that. I don't remember where that was though. Okay. And then bring one, oops. So bring 2 of them. But let me drop some of this stuff off first. Need a pickled wild. Okay, bye cat. Thanks for hanging out. Bye-bye. I feel like this makes jelly. Pickled needed to be in the kegs. I remember now. More of those with me. Um, the flooring. Okay, so I need 10 clams, 10 coral. It's 8. Need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of those for Abigail. Hmm. 10 gold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then let's see if I dumped some clams in like random thingies. And then I also need the gold coconuts to go get broken open. Take that with me. And then take 2 chests. Because why not? And then... Okay. Any clams? No. Bring this mango tree with me. This mango sapling to plant. Get it, mango trees. What else do I want to take? Rare seeds. Golden coconut. Also need to turn these pineapples into seeds. Love this song. I love this song too. Nostalgia. Yeah. Okay. I'm too late to go to the blacksmith, so I feel I should sleep through the night on this map. And then I know I have like the crab baskets or whatever. Is the water somewhere? I should go find them. I stand here and block her way through and try to actually pay attention until she shows up. Tech, did you notice the overlay I made? Or I can't remember if you had said something or if that was Kat that I was talking about it with. But I thought it was funny for now. I tried to make it like similar style as how the character is, how it's got like a boxy head and shit. But honestly, if I wanted, I could have made it pixel though. It would have been maybe cuter, you know? Oh well. For now, it'll do. Here is my future wife. I seriously love this. I'm 5 heart friends with 4 people. I seriously love this. You're the best, Sadie. Valley looks more interesting in the rain, don't you think? Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god, I wonder if we're gonna have like a, you know, those like life events or whatever, special events or whatever the heck. Abigail's not married. Abigail is the daughter of Pierre. And just lives there still. Wait. My crab baskets, I think, are down on the coast. On the beach. My little dinosaur outfit. I really want to fix my character's hair, though. This shit is not it. They all run down there quick. Oh, wait. I had remembered that it was the teleporting thingy. Never mind. When I got to the end of something, I remember seeing something about the developer talking about whether he wanted to allow or not allow marriage breakups. Oh, yeah. Because he said he didn't want people to just do it with no impact. He wanted there to be, like, an effect on the village, like, on everyone else. And that might be something introduced in the future. Where, like, the rest of the community would be, like, annoyed with you or know about it and be, like, put off. You know, like, ugh, why'd you do that? Which I think is valid when you're making a game that's also going to be played by, like, kids and people going through formative times in their life. Like, fuck it. You know, give them the option, but also show them that just because you can doesn't mean people won't be like, what the heck? No. I also don't enjoy the idea of cheating. I'm not a big, I don't like anything now. I don't enjoy lying or cheating in any way. I try to avoid it. Unless it's like about being late to work, then it's fair game. Whoops. But there's repercussions to those choices. Yeah. There, now I should have enough clams. Too. Go to the wizard next, like tomorrow in game. And have that like beach obelisk built, because then I can just teleport down here and then go straight to the island until I unlock the banana tree. So I can build the like direct island one. The wizard and I can play it. Well, after I sleep, I'll play it. Get them in their little row. Cute. Sleep time. Fallout mod for Minecraft that looked nice. Ooh. That sounds fun. What the? Surprised I haven't seen that. Unless I have and I just forgot. Is it new? I swear I grabbed coral. Wow. Ooh, thankfully I have a teleport thingy on me. Okay. 9 of them? Where the heck? There had to have been coral in one of these that I accidentally deposited in. Mm-hmm. There. Wizard time. Crafty yellow brick road to the wizard? No, but that'd be funny. Actually, I don't know that I've tried to place decor outside of my like farm. I just kind of assumed. Need my horse there. I'll place this one there as well. Oh, I feel like it should be kind of closer. Eight buildings. Can't paint those. Or those. The trim. Bow, 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 bada bow. Okay, now I gotta put my playlist back on. Hold up. Mhm. Dang. Ooh, I needed that. Need to upgrade my pan eventually too. I thought I had more golden coconuts than that though. Oh well. Ew. Ew, 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 ew. The bed with me. Faraway stone. Let me look this up. -AI. Basement of the Wizard's Tower. Oh. Okay. Hotel cartoon, I can't remember the name of it, where it's got like blue ghost looking figures. Mm. Oh, are you talking about Has-Been Hotel? That's the only thing. That's what I think of when I think cartoon hotel. Are you talking like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends? If I'm going like the not new one. Not a teenage girl running it. Yeah, wasn't that Foster's Home? And it has a little boy. And then yeah, there's the teenage girl. It's Foster's. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I loved that show growing up. That and like Grim and Mandy, and Ben 10, all that shit. Yeah. Let me get this statue out from right. I want to move this statue. Dang it. I clicked the thing. Grim Adventures of Bill and Mandy was the shit. Yeah, Invader Zim too. I don't remember much of Invader Zim. That's one I need to rewatch as an adult. I think Jordan had sent something at 1.2 and I was like, ooh, I don't remember it. Yeah, Phineas and Ferb was good too. Like, so much good stuff. I guess I should just go back to the island, plant this stuff, and then come back and mess with the faraway stone and fix my character's head. It's watching now. There's all those bangers going. Yeah. It does suck when corporations monopolize entertainment and the arts and broadcasting. It's tough. Hopefully stuff on YouTube that independent people are able to put on there, but even then, tough. I know it's probably even more nerve-wracking for people to put their work online, knowing that AI exists and someone could throw it in a fucking generator and poop out something, rips them off. Start on Avatar: The Last Airbender. That might be my favorite cartoon I've ever watched. And calling cartoon is debatable. Yeah. Add this to my upbeat playlist. Have you met the others like you? I don't talk to them much. I feel safer with my own kind. Ow. Kiddo. I don't know how much room a rare seed needs to grow. I might need that much. So quiet when I water them. Oh shoot, is my game really loud? I can adjust the volume of it. If it was like, you know. Oh, did I pick? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. The stuff that I needed to show the frog. Got scared. And just no music related breaking it. Nice. But yeah, it was straight up like your eardrum was getting watered. That's nice. You're welcome for that. Hope you enjoyed it. I brought some seed makers. I need to plant this mango tree. Can't be planted there. That's good to know. And then we need to go to the fossil guy and the oh, the dig site still. Oh my god. I'm gonna go get the things done in this that I actually need to do. That just caught my eye, and I fell for it. I need to go to the fossil dude first. That way I'll have inventory room. I guess I could see if I have something on me I could sell, too. Well. Fix that. Whoa. Donate. Head. Then, to think, generations have come and gone while this little bone lay hidden beneath the soil. Now it's mine. Hint. You know, there's some great fishing on this island. From what I know, many of the fish enjoy nibbling on ancient bones. So, need to fish for that. But where is the question? Farm. Hold up, I'm gonna look. Fossilized spine on the southern beach, digging in the dig site river. Fishing in the river at the dig site. Okay. I'll go fishing. Hmm. I have chests now that I can place here. I'll put seeds in here and speed grow. Put this in here, like fish and stuff, and this will really help me actually be able to get stuff done. I can go talk to the frog now, too. Honestly, I kind of have, like, enough of the seeds for those, too. Wrong button. Wish to see the long yellow thing, which tickles the skin and waves in the wind. Yes, I have it ready to show you. Yes, this is it. It reminds me of an old girlfriend. Look here. I could tickle you with this, but I won't. Nice. Yes, I'm very pleased. Here, this is for you. Nice. I would like to see the zesty ground fruit, which maketh the breath stink. I have that ready already. The garlic. Yes, I ate this once, long ago. It gave me a pungent aroma for days. Reminds me of Papa when I was just a tadpole. I could take a bite and produce that poignant odor once more. But I won't. But imagine. There'll be an ad starting in like 30 seconds. If you want to subscribe, it helps me pay my bills and hang out. I mean, like Peaks. I do want to play that. But yes, you have done me a great service. You've given an old toad one last trip down memory lane. Here's one last reward for you, friend. 5 golden walnuts. Good to see you again. You have my blessing to cultivate these fields. May the rains be with you. Yeah, whenever the demo was out for Moonlight Peaks, I was nervous because it didn't look like something I'd enjoy, but from what I've heard, the demo was way more rough than the game is now. It seems like people are really enjoying the game. Now that it's out. So, I'm very Intrigued and very interested, and it has definitely been on my radar. Plus something on it that said it's pretty good. 90% of people are liking it. Yay! That's always exciting too. I mean, it's definitely my kind of game, so I'm glad that it's good. I need to go to the dig site, but I saw this, so. Oh. Okay, dig site time. Dang it. Oop, I just realized I still had my list of items up. Close that. Okay. See, I like the treasure bobber thingies because if you're going to a chest, if you're hovering over the chest, it like the fish isn't escaping in that time. It like freezes it. You don't lose progress, and that's nice. Need to go get more bobbers too. I'd like to get this last fossil before I'm done for today. Go grab another drinky poo. Yeah, wait. Fossilized spine. Oh my god, I actually got it and I was spacing out. I turned my fan on. I'm glad I locked it and still at least finished fishing that up. What the heck? Wait, let me make sure I've got room in my inventory too. Donate to museum. Hmm. Cute. To think. Yeah, now it's mine. And would you look at that? With this donation, we've got another full set piece completed. I've got a little something waiting for you behind the counter when you're ready for it. Wow, look how far we've come. The collection looks fantastic, and it's all thanks to you, Sadie. Here, as a way of saying thanks, I want to teach you something. Learned how to craft ostrich incubator, and I have an ostrich egg at home. This device will allow you to raise ostriches back home. Just place the incubator in a barn, place an ostrich egg inside, and wait. Getting your hands on an ostrich egg is a different story, though. I'll leave that up to you. Already got one, bro. Well, now the real work begins. I'll be studying these bones for years to come. Farewell, Sadie. Damn. Collect rewards. Banana. Banana. Oh my god. So much progress. I actually did it. Bow, 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 bow. One time, I was at the top of the volcano at night and I saw lights far, far away. I wonder if there are other bird families out there. Build resort, yes. Nice. Beach resort is open. Temporarily close it down tomorrow? No. Okay, I need to go plant this tree at my house. Oh. Dang, it won't let me click on that. What the heck? Banana tree. Go right there. Bring the row with me. Dang, I accidentally deposited all my teleport thingies when I was at the island last. Oh yeah, I got the recipe to build an ostrich incubator. I need to do that and place an ostrich egg in it. bone fragments. I need to go to the barn and place it. I forgot the ostrich egg. Did I leave the ostrich egg at the island? I believe that I did. I did. Okay, well, I'll place the ostrich incubator, and then the next time I play, I will be preparing for ostrich babies. Okay, whoopsie. Pretty freaking productive Stardew day. Got a ton done. Pretty cool. Yeah. I met the wizard. I got my ostrich incubator. I got a banana sapling. Pretty successful. But yeah. Year 7 and approaching. Completing it. So, thanks for hanging out. Good night.